Electronic spectroscopy is the fifth part of the course. So, a formal welcome to electronic spectroscopy. In electronic spectroscopy, we deal with UV and visible regions of the electromagnetic spectrum. We start this section with a brief introduction, and then we discuss electronic spectroscopy of diatomic molecules, and then we discuss Franck-Condon principle, then electronic transitions, and then fluorescence and phosphorescence, and then we end this part with selection rules. Do you know why copper sulfate solution is blue in color? Well, the reason is that when light falls on the solution, all colors are absorbed by the solution except the blue color which is reflected, and that is what our eye sees. Now the question is that what happens to the solution when it is kept in a dark room with only red light in it? What we observe is that it appears black in color, and that is because the red light which falls on the solution is absorbed by the solution and there is no other color for it to reflect. Hence, we arrive at the conclusion that there are a fixed number of wavelengths that are absorbed by the solution and others are reflected. Electronic spectroscopy is also known as UV visible spectroscopy because we study the spectra in the UV visible region of the electromagnetic spectrum. Now, if you see a beep in an electronic spectra, it means that a transition of an electron has happened, and that implies that there is a change in electronic state of the molecule. So now we have an electronic ground state and an electronic excited state, both of which comprises of vibrational levels. The applications of electronic spectroscopy are: 1. To find the presence and absence of unsaturated functional groups in a molecule; 2. To identify inorganic and organic species; 3. To determine the concentration of the sample. The equation you see here is important to solve problems related to absorption and concentration of a sample. The absorbance concentration relationship of a sample is given by A equals log I naught by I equals epsilon CL, where A is the absorbance, I naught is the intensity of light incident upon sample cell, I is the intensity of light leaving sample cell, C is the molar concentration of solute, L is the length of the sample cell, and epsilon is the molar absorptivity or molar absorption coefficient, which is a measure of the amount of light absorbed per unit concentration, and its values vary from 1 for weak absorption to 10 power 5 for strongest absorption bands. Absorption and percentage transmission is related by this equation, and in this graph we see the relationship between absorbance and concentration. At low concentration or high dilution, we find that the relationship is linear. Hence, to determine the concentration of a sample, we first dilute it, thereby giving a linear relationship which helps us in solving the problem to determine the concentration of a sample. So far, we have known that the energy of a diatomic molecule is the energy corresponding to rotational transition plus vibrational transition. But now we have another term which is the electronic transition. We have an approximation known as the Born-Oppenheimer approximation, which states that the electronic, vibrational and rotational energies of a molecule are independent of each other. So we can write the total energy change as the energy change corresponding to electronic transition plus vibrational transition plus rotational transition. And we know that the electronic transition requires more energy than vibration transition than rotation transition, and this is evident from the radiations we use for transitions. So the rotational energy term is negligible compared to the vibration and electronic energies, so our total energy change equation becomes equal to this. Moreover, in condensed media, the rotational structure is further suppressed, and it is important to know that an electronic transition is made up of vibrational band, and each vibrational band is in turn made of rotational bands. Franck-Condon principle states that an electronic transition takes place so rapidly that a vibrating molecule does not change its internuclear distance appreciably during a transition. The most intense vibronic transition is from the ground vibrational state to the vibrational state lying vertically above it, thereby not changing the internuclear separation. Transition to other vibrational states also occur, but with lower intensity. These are some important points regarding Frank-Condon principle. In molecules, an electronic transition takes place much more rapidly than a vibrational transition. The nuclear framework remains constant during electronic excitation, that is, nuclei have same positions and velocity before and after the transition. The difference we see in these three potential energy versus internuclear separation curves is that the excited electronic state is either at the same position or slightly shifted towards the right or left with respect to the ground electronic state. And why this happens is because of bond order. For example, if bond order increases, the bond length decreases, which implies that the equilibrium internuclear separation decreases and hence the curve shifts to the left since we have the internuclear separation on the x-axis. Electronic spectroscopy of polyatomic molecules. We find that the spectrum of an atom is a sharp line, but a diatomic molecule has many peaks. And this is due to vibrational and rotational transition. But for a polyatomic molecule, it is a broad band, and this is due to overlap of vibrational and rotational transitions. Think of a carbonyl group. It has an absorption at about 290 nanometers, although its precise location depends on the nature of the rest of the molecule. So groups like this with characteristic optical absorptions are called chromophores. And these groups have the most strongly influencing absorption characteristics. The presence of a chromophore in a molecule generally accounts for its color. And these chromophores, which can be detected by UV visible spectrophotometers, which is our interest, always involve a multiple bond, such as C double bond C or C double bond O. Another example of a chromophore is the benzene ring, and this has an absorption peak at about 254 nanometers. All these are examples of chromophores, and we have a lambda max which corresponds to the least energy of absorption by the chromophore. And we have the transition. What does this transition indicate? These are electronic transitions, and these transitions may involve sigma pi or n electrons, where n is the non-bonding electrons, or d and f electrons, or charge transfer electrons. Let's discuss the pi, sigma, and n electron transition, where n is the non-bonding electrons in a molecule. So the possible transitions are sigma to sigma star, pi to pi star, n to sigma star, and n to pi star transition. What we observe about the sigma to sigma star transition is that the energy corresponding to this transition does not fall in the UV visible region. Strictly speaking, we have pi to pi star and n to pi star transition that fall in the UV visible region. So the transition for sigma electrons requires more energy because they are strongly bound to the nuclei, and pi and n electrons require lesser energy for transition to take place, and n electrons requires even lesser energy than pi electrons. Imagine a polyene molecule. A possible transition is the pi to pi star transition. So as the conjugation increases in the molecule, there is more delocalization of the electrons. So there is lesser energy gap. So the transition of electrons happen at lower energy. So as the extent of conjugation increases, the transition now can happen at lower energy. Another reason for electron spectroscopy is the DD transitions. And this happens in metal complexes because of crystal field splitting. For example, the octahedral crystal field splitting you see on the screen. So now we have two vanadium complexes. The only difference is that the left one has an oxidation state of 3 plus and the right one has an oxidation state of 2 plus. And from inorganic chemistry, we know that octahedral splitting energy is higher in this case. So this complex absorbs violet color, which has higher energy, and it appears yellow in color, which is its complementary color. With a similar argument, we can understand why the right complex is violet in color. Now, another transition that we see in complexes is the transfer of an electron from the ligands to the d orbitals of the central atom or vice versa. An example for ligand to metal charge transfer transition is the permanganate ion. And an example for metal to ligand charge transfer transition is the transfer of a d electron of the central atom into the anti-bonding pi orbitals of an aromatic ligand. Now the electron is in the excited energy state. When it comes back to the ground state, the excited energy is released by either radiative or non-radiative decay processes. Now we are going to understand why sometimes the emitted light has a lower energy than the absorbed light. Now the excited electron can discard its excitation energy as a photon, and this is what we call the radiative decay, and this happens in the form of fluorescence or phosphorescence. A more common fate is the non-radiative decay, in which the excess energy is transferred into the vibration, rotation, and translation of the surrounding molecules. Fluorescence happens when a molecule from an excited singlet state drops to a singlet ground state, while phosphorescence happens when a molecule drops from a metastable triplet state to a ground singlet state. In fluorescence, spontaneous emission of radiation occurs within a few nanoseconds, but in phosphorescence, the spontaneous emission can persist for even longer periods. So a fluorescence happens quicker than a phosphorescence. Now the molecule has absorbed energy. Now there are three possible cases for emission. Either it could emit with the same energy or do the non-radiative decay first and then emit energy which is lesser than the absorbed energy. And this is what happens in fluorescence and phosphorescence. In fluorescence, the molecule comes down to the lowest excited state and then emits the radiation. But in phosphorescence, the initial steps are the same as fluorescence, but now it moves to a triplet state, which we call the intersystem crossing, and then the molecule emits radiations. There are selection rules for transitions. Spin selection rule states that for a transition to happen, a change in spin multiplicity should be zero. So the allowed transitions are from singlet to singlet state and from triplet to triplet state. The transitions from singlet to triplet and triplet to singlet are forbidden transitions. The second rule is the Laporte selection rule, which states that the transition in a molecule happens only if there is a change in parity which has to do with the symmetry. Let G and U indicate the Gerade and ungerade symmetries of the molecule. So the allowed transition is from G to U and U to G, and transitions from U to U and G to G are forbidden. Not always selection rules are followed. Sometimes selection rules can be relaxed due to vibronic coupling or spin orbit coupling or due to geometric relaxation during transition.